I spent 4 months nursing a row of cauliflower 2 summers ago, and when I finally cut the heads, every single one of them was the size of a tennis ball. I had done everything the seed packet told me to do. I watered on schedule, I fed them, I even put up shade cloth during a heat wave. And standing there in my garden holding those pitiful little heads, I thought, why am I fighting this hard for something I can buy for $3 at the store? That was the moment I started being honest with myself about which crops actually earn their space in my garden, and which ones just eat my time and energy for almost nothing in return. That is exactly what I want to walk through with you today. I am going to name 7 crops that seem like they belong in every backyard garden, but quietly steal your time, your bed space, and your patience without giving you much to show for it. And I am not just going to tell you what to stop growing. I am going to tell you why each one tricks you into thinking it is worth it, what specifically goes wrong, and then I am going to give you 4 crops that actually deliver for someone who wants real food from a real garden without wrecking their back or their weekends. By the time we are done, you will have a filter you can use for every planting decision from here on out. Let us start with the one that is going to upset some people. Corn. I know. I grew up eating corn my mother picked 10 minutes before dinner, and I understand the pull. There is nothing on earth like fresh, sweet corn, and that memory alone keeps people planting it year after year. But here is the reality. Corn is a space thief. You need a minimum block of 4 rows by 4 rows just to get decent pollination, and that is 16 plants taking up prime garden real estate. Each one of those stalks is going to give you 1 ear, maybe 2 if you are lucky. So you are looking at 16 to 32 ears from a patch that could have grown 100 pounds of something else. The stalks get 6 or 7 feet tall, they shade everything around them, they are heavy feeders that drain your soil, and when a summer storm rolls through, half of them blow over, and you are out there propping them up with stakes when your knees are already telling you to sit down. And after all of that, corn at the store costs about 40 cents an ear in season. I love fresh corn as much as anyone alive, but the math does not work for a backyard garden. It just does not. Number 2 is one I already told you about. Cauliflower. This is a crop that wants everything to be perfect, and throws a tantrum the second it is not. It needs cool temperatures, but not too cool. It needs consistent moisture, but not wet feet. It needs rich soil, heavy feeding, and in most climates, you have a window of about 3 weeks where conditions are actually right for it to form a decent head. If it gets too hot, it bolts. If it gets stressed, the head turns yellow or purple, or just stays small. And the pest pressure is relentless. Cabbage worms, aphids, flea beetles, they all treat cauliflower like an open buffet. I have watched experienced gardeners struggle with cauliflower. For someone who wants a reliable garden that does not demand constant babysitting, this one is a trap. And it takes up that space for 3 to 4 months for a single head. 1 head. You can buy an organic cauliflower for about $4. Save yourself the heartbreak. Number 3 surprises people because it is one of the most popular garden vegetables in the world. Brussels sprouts. Now I want to be fair here because homegrown Brussels sprouts taste absolutely nothing like the frozen ones you grew up dreading. They are sweet and nutty and genuinely delicious. The problem is not the flavor, the problem is everything else. Brussels sprouts take between 80 and 100 days to mature, and in most of the US, they need to finish in cool weather, which means you are starting them in summer heat and trying to keep them alive through the worst part of the year. Each plant takes up about 2 square feet and produces maybe 1 to 2 pounds of sprouts if things go well. The stalks get top-heavy and need staking. Aphids colonize them like they are building a civilization. And there is one issue with Brussels sprouts that took me 3 full seasons to figure out, and I will come back to it in a minute, because it connects to something bigger about how we choose what to grow. Number 4 is celery. Celery is one of those crops that looks simple because you see it in every grocery store for $1.50, and you think, how hard can it be? Very hard, it turns out. Celery has a shallow root system and needs constant, even moisture. Not occasional watering. Constant. If it dries out for even a day or 2, the stalks go hollow and bitter. It is a heavy feeder. It takes 130 to 140 days from seed to harvest, and it needs to be started indoors months before your last frost. Then you transplant it out and spend the next 4 months worrying about it. And even when it works, a single celery plant gives you one bunch. I grew celery exactly twice. The first time it bolted. The second time, I got a bunch that was stringy and tough, and about a third the size of what I could have bought at the store. I spent more on the potting mix than the celery cost. Some lessons you only need to learn twice. Number 5 is artichokes, and this one hurts a little because I do think they are beautiful plants. An artichoke in full bloom is one of the most striking things you will see in a garden, but growing them for food is a different conversation. In most climates, artichokes are grown as annuals, which means you are starting from seed or transplant every single year. They take up an enormous amount of space. Each plant needs about 4 feet in every direction. They need consistent feeding and watering. And after all of that tending, a first-year plant might give you 3 to 5 artichokes. Maybe, in mild coastal climates where they come back as perennials, the math changes. But for the vast majority of backyard gardeners in the US, Canada, the UK, and most of Australia, artichokes are a luxury crop that demands premium effort. You can buy them at the store for $2 or $3 each. Unless you simply love the process of growing them, the return is not there. Number 6 is melons, and I want to be specific about what I mean. I am talking about large melons, cantaloupe, honeydew, watermelon. These are vine crops that sprawl across your garden like they own the place. A single watermelon vine can run 8 to 10 feet, and it needs full sun, warm soil, consistent water, and a long growing season. In northern climates, you are fighting the calendar from day one. And the yield? A watermelon plant might give you 2 or 3 melons over the entire season. A cantaloupe might give you 3 to 5. The space those vines take up could have grown dozens of pounds of other food. And here is the part nobody warns you about. Melons are heavy when they are ripe. If you are growing them on the ground, you are bending and kneeling and reaching into a tangle of vines to harvest something that weighs 10 or 15 pounds. That is not a small thing when your back already has opinions about how you spend your mornings. I stopped growing watermelon 5 years ago, and I have never once regretted it. Number 7 is the one I think people need to hear most, and it connects back to what I said earlier about Brussels sprouts. It is head lettuce, not lettuce in general. I grow lettuce all season long. I am talking about the big iceberg and butterhead types that need to form a tight head before you can harvest them. Head lettuce takes 70 to 80 days to mature. It bolts the second the temperature rises. You get 1 head per plant, and the window for harvesting it before it turns bitter is about 5 days. Miss that window, and the whole thing is wasted. Meanwhile, leaf lettuce varieties, which I will get to in a minute, give you harvests within 30 days and keep producing for weeks or months. And this brings me back to what I promised about Brussels sprouts. The issue I figured out after 3 seasons was not about the plant itself, it was about the category the plant belongs to. Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, head lettuce, celery, they all share the same problem. They are single harvest crops that take a long time to mature, demand a lot of attention, and give you one shot at getting it right. If anything goes wrong during that long growing window, a heat wave, a pest outbreak, a week when you are traveling, or just do not feel like going outside, you lose the whole thing. And that right there is the principle I want you to take away from this entire list. For a gardener who wants real results without constant pressure, the best crops are the ones that forgive your mistakes, produce over a long window, and give you multiple chances to harvest instead of just one. Which brings me to the 4 crops that actually deliver on that promise. And I am not going to be shy about saying these are the ones I would grow if I could only grow 4 things for the rest of my life. The first is leaf lettuce, and specifically, the cut and come again varieties. I grow a mix of red and green loose leaf types, varieties like Red Sales, Simpson Elite, and Salad Bowl. You direct sow the seeds in a container or a raised bed, and in about 25 to 30 days, you are cutting your first salad. But here is the beautiful part. You do not pull the plant. You cut the outer leaves about an inch above the soil line, and the plant keeps growing from the center. A single planting can give you 6 to 8 harvests over 2 to 3 months. And when one planting starts to slow down, you sow a new row right next to it. I grow lettuce from early spring through late fall, and in a good year, I spend less than $10 on seed and harvest more salad greens than I could possibly eat. The grocery store wants $5 or $6 for a plastic box of mixed greens that wilts in 3 days. My lettuce is still alive when I cut it. There is no contest. The second crop is bush zucchini, not the vining type that takes over your garden. Bush varieties like Gold Rush, Patio Star, and Astia stay compact, about 3 feet across, and they produce like they have something to prove. A single bush zucchini plant in good soil with regular water will produce 8 to 12 pounds of zucchini over the season. 2 plants will feed a household and still leave you with enough to quietly leave on your neighbor's porch when they are not looking. Zucchini germinates in 5 to 7 days, starts producing in 45 to 55 days from seed, and keeps going until frost. It grows in containers, raised beds, or directly in the ground. The seeds cost about $3 for a packet that will last you several seasons. And zucchini is incredibly versatile in the kitchen. Grilled, roasted, spiralized, baked into bread, thrown into soup. It is one of the hardest working crops in any garden, and it asks almost nothing from you except water and sunshine. The third is cherry tomatoes, and I am going to be specific about why cherry tomatoes instead of the big slicing types. Large tomatoes, your beefsteaks and your brandy wines, are wonderful when they work, but they are fussy. They take 80 to 90 days to ripen, they crack in heavy rain, they are magnets for blossom end rot, and a single bad week of weather can ruin a month of waiting. Cherry tomatoes are a completely different animal. Varieties like Sun Gold, Juliet, and Super Sweet 100 start producing in 55 to 65 days, and they do not stop until hard frost kills them. A single plant can give you 10 to 15 pounds of tomatoes over the season, and they are almost unkillable. They tolerate heat, they recover from drought, and they produce through conditions that would shut down a beefsteak entirely. You can grow them in a 5-gallon container on a patio if that is all you have. I have had Sun Gold plants that were still setting fruit in October when everything else in the garden was done. And the flavor is not a compromise. A ripe Sun Gold off the vine is one of the best things you will ever eat. My grandchildren eat them like candy, and I have to plant extra just to make sure some actually make it into the kitchen. The fourth crop is green beans, specifically bush beans. Pole beans produce more over the season, but they need a trellis, which means building something, reaching above your head to harvest, and dealing with a structure that can blow over in wind. Bush beans like Provider, Contender, and Blue Lake need nothing but soil and sun. They germinate in a week, start producing in 50 to 55 days, and a 10-foot row will give you more green beans than you know what to do with. Here is the trick that took me years to learn. Do not plant them all at once. Stagger your plantings 2 to 3 weeks apart, and you will have fresh beans from early summer all the way into fall. A packet of bush bean seeds costs $2 or $3 and contains enough seed for multiple plantings. And beans do something for your garden that nothing else on this list does. They fix nitrogen in the soil, which means they actually leave the dirt better than they found it. Every row of beans you grow is feeding next year's garden. That is a crop that gives you food and does your composting for you. Now let me pull back and name the thread that runs through all 4 of these winners. They are fast. They are forgiving. They produce over a long window instead of making you wait for a single payoff. And none of them require you to do anything extreme. No elaborate trellises, no daily monitoring, no chasing a narrow harvest window before the whole crop goes to waste. That is the filter. When you are deciding whether to give a crop space in your garden, ask yourself 3 questions. How long before I eat something? What happens if I miss a week? And does this plant give me one chance or many? If a crop is slow, fussy, and single harvest, it is competing against the grocery store and losing. If it is fast, tough, and keeps producing, it is earning its place every single day. I want you to do one thing before next season. Look at your garden plan, or if you do not have one, look at whatever you grew last year and find the crop that gave you the most frustration for the least reward. You already know which one it is. You have probably been making excuses for it for 2 or 3 seasons. Drop it. Replace it with one of the 4 I just talked about, and give that space to something that will actually feed you without fighting you. Gardening after 60 is not about growing everything. It is about growing the right things. The garden should work for you, not the other way around. That is something it took me a long time to learn, but once I did, I started eating better, spending less, and enjoying every single morning I walked outside.